Дорогие коллеги, спасибо огромное еще раз, что вы нашли время прийти к нам на конференцию и провести 2 дня в очень интенсивном, таком интеллектуально интересном, эмоционально увлекающем формате, когда мы все были в разных местах, в разных зум-комнатах, в сессионных залах, но везде проходили очень интересные беседы, дискуссии. Мы узнали столько много интересных идей от наших коллег, как в США, так и за пределами Америки. И я очень рада, что э, эта конференция прошла вот именно в таком формате, когда много наших коллег, друзей из разных стран смогли прийти, пообщаться, поделиться своим опытом, поделиться своим исследованием. И я очень рада, что все-таки мы таким важным событием отмечаем годовщину ACTR. So I will probably switch to English now. And my first part, which I would like to do, is to thank everyone who made this conference possible. So yes, I heard that several people already thanked earlier during the break, all the organizers, and this is the list of all the people who were involved in the process of organizing this conference from the very beginning to the very end. So Dan Davidson, Olga Klimova, Roby, Richard Dick Brecht, Евгений Денгуб, Ирина Дубинина, Мария Хатымский, Олеся Киселев, Ирина Когел, Susan Креsin, Olga Mizropova, Olga Mukhortova, Alexandra Shapira. So all these people had their specific special roles. Some of them were taking care of technology, some of them were taking care of proposals, some of them were organizing the schedule. So they all contributed an enormous number of hours and a lot of energy into this conference. And I'm grateful to every single person who was a part of this organizing committee. I also wanted to thank all the people who agreed to read the proposals, all our blind reviewers. Without those volunteers, we would be able to select such an amazing number of presentations and roundtables and share out talks. And so this is another thank you is going to these people. I also wanted to say personal thanks to all the people from the American Councils for International Educations who came yesterday and today and spent 2 days helping us, assisting us with breakout rooms, with recordings, with scheduling. So I'm very grateful to all these people who supported us in our event. So thank you again. And of course, as everyone said, without the smooth technical support, an online conference would have never happened. And Evgeny Dengub and Irina Kogel are these people behind the masterminds behind all this technology that made this conference possible. And I would like to give special thanks to these two people. So, and now to a little bit more official part. And as we celebrate the 50th anniversary of the American Council of Teachers of Russian, we would like to express our profound gratitude to the past presidents. The founding president, Dan Davidson, Irwin Weil, Don Jarvis, Elizabeth Nitro, Zita Dabars, Peter Merrill, Jane Shuffelton, Robert Shannon, Betsy Sandstrom, Tom Garza, and Natalia Ushakova, for their extraordinary leadership and selfless dedication to advancing the mission of our organization and the field of Russian language education in general. Through their vision and tireless efforts, ACTR has built and strengthened core programs that have shaped generations of students and teachers, including such programs as the Olympiad of Spoken Russian, National Russia Essay Contest, both at secondary and post-secondary levels, the Russian Scholar Laureate Awards, again, both for secondary students and post-secondary college students, the Russian Language Journal, and the ACTR professional newsletter, The Ladder. The strong commitment to creating professional development opportunities and recognizing excellence in teaching through initiatives such as awards for outstanding instructors, the Olga Kagan Professional Development Fund, and wide range of other professional development programs and events has made a lasting impact on the field. Today, thanks to their contribution, ACTR stands as a strong, forward-looking community that continues to promote excellence in Russian language and culture teaching, to create dialogue and innovation, and to inspire new generations of scholars, educators, and students across the United States and beyond. So as a part of our celebration today, we are honored to recognize also our ACTR's co-founders, Davidson, Irwin Weil, and Richard Brecht. And their tributes will be presented by Anthony or Tony Brown, Dick Brecht, and Jane Shuffelton. Following the recognition of our organization's co-founders, we warmly invite you to share your wishes, memories, and personal stories about ACTR and the impact it has had on your professional journey, our field, and the broader community. Representatives of professional organizations and also institutions from here, from the United States and abroad, are also welcome to share reflections on how ACTR has supported collaboration, built connections, and strengthening the work we do together. So I think I will pass this to our first presenter, and I'll stop sharing my slides. Tony, you need to unmute yourself.
All right. Thank you, Olga. I'll put my slides up then. It's my pleasure to share a brief tribute to Professor Irwin Weil. As a young boy growing up in the 1930s, Irwin felt keenly the effects of the Great Depression. His father, Sidney Weil, counseled him, quote, "Irwin, never work only for money. It's great stuff to have, but as life's only goal, it is the most horrible goal possible. Always work primarily for the good the work can do. Then the money will come in a sufficient amount to support you and your family," close quote. Irwin took that counsel to heart and made exploring the depths of the human soul through Russian literature his life's passion. Irwin's higher education began at the University of Cincinnati, which in retrospect, Irwin admitted, quote, "really wasn't ready to fire my imagination into the conflagration I yearned for." Soon thereafter, he transferred to the University of Chicago, whose boy wonder president, Robert Maynard Hutchins, transformed it into, quoting Irwin, "a bastion of higher educational changes, with classics full of almost breathless enthusiasm for such undoubted worthiness as Plato, Aristotle, Aquinas, Locke, etc." Close quote. Reflecting on his experiences there, Irwin mused, quote, "every single student had to face the force of passionate argument with classes engaged in Socratic-like, or so Hutchins wished, dialogues. The UFC was sometimes called that Baptist place where atheist professors taught Jewish students Catholic doctrine," close quote. It was during his studies at the University of Chicago that Irwin discovered Dostoevsky. After purchasing a copy of Crime and Punishment at the university bookstore, he dashed back to his dormitory on a Saturday night and immersed himself in the book. Without so much as realizing it, Irwin read through the night and finished the book on Sunday afternoon. Reflecting on that experience years later, Irwin observed, quote, "those hours of reading Dostoevsky changed my life," close quote. And indeed, they did. Irwin eventually went on to pursue doctoral studies at Harvard University, where he studied with such luminaries as Roman Nikopson, a philologist who came out of the famous Russian formalist school of language and literature. Renato Poggioli, a brilliant Italian Slavic scholar who had fled Mussolini's fascists and ended up at Harvard's Slavic and Comparative Literature departments. Mikhail Karpovich, who, as Irwin recounts, quote, had worked in the Washington embassy at Kerensky's provisional government, and then had decided to, quote, wait a few months until the Bolshevik business would run its course. Those few months turned into a lifetime career at Harvard University. And then there was Dmitry Chizhevsky, who, according to Irwin, quote, believed in vampires. Vampiri. One evening, recalls Irwin, Chizhevsky and Jakobson were in a New England country house at night, and he said, Jakobson, vampir sidi pod oknom. A vampire sitting under the window. And Jakobson exclaimed, Zakroyte okno, close the window. After a 6-year stint at Brandeis University in 1965, Irwin relocated to Northwestern University. And around this time, he met with a series of key individuals to discuss the formation of an international professional association. Initially, he proposed the idea of joining the already existing national organization of ACTR with the International Association for Teachers of Russian Language and Literature, Material. But the proposal divided instead of united members of ACTR. And rather than unnecessarily creating factions, Irwin took a more prudent tack and opted to create a separate American Professional Association, ACTR, that would cooperate both with ACTR and Material. Irwin went on to serve as president of both ACTR and ACTR, and likewise served as a board member of both organizations. Irwin spent the remainder of his 50-plus year career at Northwestern University, where he now holds the title of Professor Emeritus in the Department of Slavic Languages and Literatures. Over the years, Irwin established a respected name for himself, both as a prolific scholar and an outstanding teacher. In fact, for several semesters, Irwin taught a general education course in Russian culture that attracted some 800 students from disciplines across campus, a record that stands to this day at Northwestern University. A year or so before he retired, the dean at commencement asked, quote, how many of you have been in one of Dr. Weil's classes? 2/3 of the students raised their hand. Near the end of Irwin's career, creators of the Great Courses series approached him about writing and recording 36 half-hour lectures titled Classics of Russian Literature that explored the richness of the Russian literary world. These lectures have been met with tremendous enthusiasm and appreciation, as evidenced by one reviewer who wrote, quote, I was fully absorbed in Professor Weil's lectures from beginning to end. It was like being offered a ride on a magic carpet and whisked through a synopsis of the history of Rus, Russia, and the Soviet Union, and its vast lands, people, religion, and culture, all of which played such a profound part in the development of the great Russian language, its amazingly talented authors and poets, and the literature they were responsible for. Over his career, Irwin rubbed shoulders with such notables as Vladimir Nabokov, Irwin Pescator, Orson Welles, Evgeny Kulisher, Roman Jakobson, Kornei Chukovsky, Evgeny Yevtushenko, Nadezhda Mandelstam, Lydia Chukovskaya, Lina Prokofyevna, Dmitry Shostakovich, and many others. And yet, anyone who has interacted with Irwin, whether in the classroom, the synagogue, the gym, at a conference, or elsewhere, will tell you that his genuine interest in other people knows no bounds. Indeed, his profound reverence for human life and the contribution that each person makes to the tapestry of existence speaks precisely to the beauty that Dostoevsky claimed was the only thing capable of saving the world. Thank you.
Maybe I'll ask everyone if it's possible. We'll do a round of applause to express our gratitude and thanks to Irwin. Thank you so much for all these years. Thank you. Okay, and I think we now will move to Dick Brecht, who will be presenting his notes about Dan Davidson.
Thank you so much, Olga. Tony, that was absolutely brilliant. I'm not as brilliant. The title of my small tribute is called Dan Davidson, Indomitable Leader, Teacher, Researcher, and Generous Friend of So Many. I'm going to be less personal because it'll be too hard for me to be so personal. As one who has worked with Dan for almost 7 decades, it's an honor for me to speak about him on this occasion. For more of my personal comments about Dan, some of them quite humorous, see my article in the current ACTR newsletter. Let me be a little bit more formal. Professor Dan Davidson received his master's and doctoral degree. I think we all know Dan because he's so outgoing and so generous and kind, but I don't think many of us appreciate what he has accomplished in his life, and that's what I want to talk about today. He probably doesn't like this, but there, Dan, suck it up, and Marshall will understand. Professor Dan Davidson received his master's and doctoral degree in Slavic languages and literature from Harvard University and is now emeritus professor at Bryn Mawr College, where he served as department chair from 1978 to 1987. He is founding president of the home of ACTR, the American Councils for International Education, which focuses on international research, exchange and training programs, internationally focused professional development, and educational reform initiatives within the United States and across 130 countries of the world. No little due to Dan's incredible energy and contact. Successful organizations begin, grow, and become world-changing only with leaders willing to devote their whole lives to the effort. This Dan has done for over half a century, leading ACTR from its very challenging beginnings in the 1970s through perestroika and now into these challenging times as its executive director and guiding spirit. It's rare, though, to find such a leader who loves teaching and research, which in fact credential his leadership on both sides of the ocean. In fact, Dan is among this country's leading language acquisition experts, especially in language assessment, and without question is its foremost in-country immersion expert, a world leader in these areas. He is author, co-author, or editor of 24 textbooks and collections, over 50 refereed scholarly articles, and 50 professional publications in the field of language acquisition, language policy, culture, and educational development, including a landmark 20-year longitudinal investigation of adult second language acquisition in the overseas immersion and context. He edited and co-authored the volume Transformative Language Learning and Teaching, which appeared in 2022 with Cambridge University Press. And he received the Mildenberger Prize in 2024 from the Modern Language Association, as well as the prize for the best volume in Slavic language pedagogy from the American Association of Teachers of Slavic and East European Languages in 2023. In fact, he has received awards for distinguished service to the profession from every U.S. National Association connected with his area of teaching and research, including the American Association of Teachers of Slavic and East European Languages, the Modern Language Association, the Language Flagship, the Joint National Committee for Languages, the National Council of Less Commonly Taught Languages, and of course, from ACTR. In addition to this professional record, Dan has played an outsized role in broader societal relations and reforms at home and abroad, which are truly extraordinary for any academic, and I don't think fully appreciated by his colleagues at home. In the early 1990s, Dan was co-chair of the Transformation of the Humanities and Social Sciences initiative, sponsored by philanthropist George Soros in Russia, Belarus, and Ukraine. The programs produced over 400 experimental textbooks for use in schools and universities in the years following the collapse of the Soviet Union. He also served as a member of the board of European Humanities University, vice president of the International Association of Teachers of Russian Language and Literature, MAPRIAL, chair of the board of the Center for Educational Testing and Methodology of Kyrgyzstan, the first independent educational testing center in Central Asia, and member of the Commission on Language Learning in America, American Academy of Arts and Sciences. He currently serves as a member of the International Advisory Board for America 250. Dan is an elected foreign member of the Russian and Ukrainian Academy of Education and a recipient of honorary professorships from Kyrgyz National University in Bishkek and of honorary doctoral degrees from Al-Farabi Kazakh National University, the Albayi State Pedagogical University of Almaty, the Russian Academy of Sciences, Division of Language and Literature, the State University of World Languages in Tashkent, and the European Humanities University in Vilnius. Remarkably, he is holder of the Order of Friendship, conveyed in 1990 by order of President Mikhail Gorbachev, and the Kyrgyz Medal of Distinction, Dunk, in 2005, conveyed by former President Akayev. Both the highest recognition accorded to a foreign citizen in these two nations. To be sure, even Dr. Dan Davidson could not have done all of this alone, as he is always careful to assert. But I would be remiss if I did not acknowledge his life's partner, Maria Masha Lekic, the best thing that ever happened to him professionally and personally. I can say this as an old friend, present when they met at a Moscow literary soiree in the 1970s. Masha, are you there?
No, no,
It has been the good fortune of the Russian language field in the United States to have had Dan at its head for so many decades. I am reminded of a distinguished military leader's farewell before Congress in the 1950s, when he ended his talk with, "Old soldiers never die, they just fade away." Dan, you just go on and lead a very long life. And we, your friends and colleagues here and across the profession, cannot help but ensure that your accomplishments will never fade away. God bless you, Dan.
Thank you. Nick, if you get old enough, the list goes on and on, right?
It does. Yeah, but it's not just getting old that does it. It's that woman behind you.
Thank you so much, Dick. This was really moving, and it was so nice to hear again about everything that you've done has done for the field, for the organization, and for a generation of graduate students, undergraduate students, and educators, language educators as well. So now I would like to invite Jen Shuffelton, who will share her notes on Dick Brecht.
Thank you. Well, Dick, you managed to get me so emotional that you really, my heart's in my throat. That was really
You're
quite
such
something.
a
And
wonderful woman.
wonderful. You
Kind.
have a talent for doing that, Dick. But at any rate, I have not not enough time to say all the good things about you, but here's what I will say. Dick Brecht has done so much and contributed so much to the life of ACTR and excels that citing his accomplishments would take the rest of the evening. His professional involvements go well beyond the confines of ACTR and excels, as he has been and continues to be a major figure in the world of language study in the US and internationally. He has always been a visionary thinker and practitioner, creating and promoting far-ranging initiatives that endorse and enhance language learning at all levels. We recognize Dick today as one of the triumvirate that brought ACTR into being 50 years ago. He is also a founder of the National Council of Organizations of Less Commonly Taught Languages, so entertaining to refer to as Nickel Tickle. And he is a member of many, many other associations. Dick was instrumental in a project called Languages for All, a national conference calling for a new and unprecedented national effort to ensure access to second language education for any and all residents of the United States by 2025, with participation from both the British Academy and the American Academy for Arts and Sciences. He has testified before Congress on issues like coordinated, comprehensive, cohesive, and collaborative federal language capabilities. I like those 5 C's. In 2012, he gave testimony before the U.S. Senate Committee on Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs Subcommittee on Oversight of Government Management, the Federal Workforce, and the District of Columbia on closing the language gap, improving the federal government's foreign language capabilities. His directory of published articles and books and his list of conference and symposium presentations is extensive and varied. I won't even try to begin to list them. And the number of awards and participation in other organizations is also considerable. But what I would really like to focus on now is Dick as a person. My first memory of attending an ACTR board meeting is of the easygoing, congenial atmosphere of camaraderie in a group who clearly respected and enjoyed each other's company. I was in awe, not daring to say anything that afternoon. The awe remained, but I did eventually find my voice. Dick was then, as he is always, so articulate, with an almost palpable enthusiasm about language study and the mission of ACTR excels. Later that year, at a summer workshop for Russian teachers at Bryn Mawr, I got a taste of Dick's linguistic erudition when he gave a brilliant, unforgettable lecture on verbal aspect. Dick was talking about verbs of motion, and at one point he told us that speakers of English could never get it completely right, and that native speakers of Russian would never do it wrong. It was such a succinct, summative comment, and a relief to know that I was not alone in struggling with verbal aspect. I have never forgotten that. One more facet of Dick's persona that I cannot omit is his consistent treatment of pre-college teachers of Russian with the same respect and dignity as the academic PhDs. He has always given female instructors the same measure of respect as men. He told me once that his respect for his wife's career as a high school German teacher was behind his treatment of us women. Even though I always saw Dick as a giant in the field, the brightest of the bright, he was approachable and wickedly witty, with a marvelous sense of humor. I distinctly remember trying to run an ACTR board meeting when I was president, sitting on a dais while Dick sat in the front row and made outrageous, funny faces at me. All that being said, and I could say so much more, it is an honor and a joy to recognize Dick as one of the founders of ACTR, and no exaggeration to say that he is a living legend.
Thank you so much, Jane.
Thank you so much, Jane. This was beautiful, beautifully said. So again, colleagues, I would like to ask you to join me in thanking all our three co-founders. If you can do your electronic clapping or just clap your hands in front of your screen, we would really appreciate. Thank you. Thank you so much, Irwin, Dan, and Dick. Yeah. Okay, so. And again, I believe that strong leadership is important. And without strong leaders such as the three co-founders and also all these presidents of past presidents of CTR, whom I would like to thank personally, unfortunately, I've met in person or online through Zoom meetings, I believe only 6 out of 11. And it's sad that I didn't have an opportunity to meet the other ones. They are no longer with us. But I know that all of them have made a big impact on the organization, created such wonderful programs for teachers and for students. And I'm honored to continue this tradition of being president. And just an anecdotal moment, I think it was maybe half a year ago when Dan and I were talking about something, and I said, "Oh, I believe I'm the youngest president of ACTR." And he said, "No, you are not." And that's when I discovered that when he established this organization, he was more than 10 years younger than I am now. And that was quite impressive because it is definitely, it's a lot of responsibility, it's a lot of work, and thinking that someone at such young age could run an organization, establish an organization with his colleagues and dear friends, this is quite impressive. And it's so much easier now to run the organization that's already well established with a lot of colleagues, with a lot of board members who are contributing their time, their energy, their brilliant ideas. And I'm grateful as a new generation of the leaders. I'm very grateful to all of you. So, and before we open the floor for comments and maybe some wishes, best wishes to the organization, I would like to read several letters that we received. Okay, they are all in Russian from our overseas colleagues. Позвольте поздравить Американскую ассоциацию русистов с юбилеем. Не удалось подключиться, Zoom, по-видимому, был ограничен, а желающих поздравить море. Желаю всех творческих успехов и радости общения с единомышленниками. С уважением, Татьяна Владимировна Картава, проректор МГУ имени Ломоносова, доктор филологических наук, профессор, академик Российской академии образования. And then the next letter is coming from Молдовское общество преподавателей русского языка и литературы. Дорогие американские русисты, Молдавское общество преподавателей русского языка и литературы от имени всех русистов страны поздравляет вас с полувековым юбилеем. Ваш авторитет и опыт, ваши инициативы и результаты вызывают огромное уважение и представляют огромную ценность для профессионального прогресса методики преподавания русского языка и лингводидактики в мире. Также глубокими и образцовыми являются исследования ученых, входящих в вашу ассоциацию. На международных научных форумах звучат доклады, которые свежи по постановке задач и по стратегиям реализации. Примечательно ваше партнерство с исследователями и педагогами различных стран мира и масштаб тех проектов, которые вы осуществляете. Уже много лет вашим представителем, активным членом и вице-президентом МАПРИАЛ является многоуважаемый профессор Дэн Дэвидсон, достойный вклад которого очень важен для функционирования нашего международного объединения. В лице профессора Дэвидсона МАПРИАЛ солидно представляется и фигурирует на важных встречах и высоких площадках. Мы признательны АПРИАЛ за внимание к нашей организации, за возможность участвовать в мероприятиях, проводимых в США. С почтением и пожеланием успехов в следующие 50 лет, представитель МАПРИАЛа доктор Татьяна Млечко. And the last message is coming from Государственный институт русского языка имени Пушкина, and it's addressed to Dan Davidson. Уважаемый господин Дэвидсон, от имени Государственного института русского языка имени Александра Сергеевича Пушкина и от себя лично рад приветствовать вас, вице-президента Международной ассоциации преподавателей русского языка и литературы, исполнительного директора Американского совета преподавателей русского языка и литературы по случаю открытия юбилейной конференции. Конференция, посвященная преподаванию и изучению русского языка в разнообразном и меняющемся мире, объединяет профессионалов, для которых русский язык стал мостом между культурами, традициями и поколениями. Это особенно важно в современном мире, где диалог и взаимопонимание приобретают глобальную ценность. Хотелось бы особо отметить ваш многолетний вклад в развитие русистики и укрепление международных гуманитарных связей. Ваша дружба и плодотворное сотрудничество с Виталием Григорьевичем Костомаровым, основателем нашего института, стали ярким примером того, как профессиональная солидарность и общие идеи способны преодолеть границы и вдохновлять новые поколения педагогов и исследователей. Желаю участникам конференции продуктивной работы, интересных дискуссий и новых творческих идей, а вам лично крепкого здоровья и благополучия. Ректор Государственного института русского языка имени Пушкина Гусев, Н.В. Гусев. So I would like to join our overseas colleagues in congratulating the organization. And I think the next step, I would like to invite my colleague, my friend, and my partner in crime, our Vice President Lee Roby. And just a couple notes, I know that I thanked a lot of people who made this conference possible, but I should tell you one secret. We have a hurricane in our organization. This is Lee Roby. She has so much energy. She has so much intellectual capacity. She has so many ideas, and she's extremely meticulous, extremely organized, very detailed. She took over this process of organizing conference from the very beginning, set up the deadlines, timelines, assigned roles to the people. She did so much work to make this conference happen, and I'm grateful. I'm very grateful to Lee for what she has done for the organization, and also, for who made this event, important, wonderful event happen. And I know, Lee, that you have something you wanted to share, so this is your time.
Before I do that, I simply want to say that this is certainly, I thank you, Olga, for your very, very sweet words, but this was certainly the accomplishment of a village and not a single person. And there have been so many times over the last few months that I've been super busy and that I've been super touched by the numerous people on all of these committees and how ready anyone is to jump in at any moment and do something that they're not even assigned to do. The collaboration at ACTR is something that is just awe-inspiring to me. And it was actually one of the things that I said to my principal when I was first asked if I would like to be on the board. And I said, I look at these people, starting with all the people named today, including people from Friend School, the legacy of Claire Walker, the legacy of Zita DeBars, my many years of work with Betsy Sandstrom, and just looking at all of these people and thinking, I'm a little bit afraid. I can't imagine working with these people. And of course, Another thing that I said was that the mentorship in our, and I've said this a million times to people over the weekend and over the last few months, is the collaboration and the mentorship, and what we felt today, the joy, is just remarkable. And so what I want to do right now is actually read a remembrance for someone who isn't a co-founder, but is definitely worthy of a lot of all of our gratitude and memory, and particularly mine, because she is my former Russian teacher, the person who inspired me and brought me into the field. And so I'm going to read something that also may be nostalgic for those of you, maybe Betsy, for those of you who had our first experiences of the Soviet Union, then transitioning to post-Soviet society. But when we got in it, it was still the Soviet Union. And I was a little bit later, but the beginning of this is, as the Soviet system was, culture was quite similar for long breaths of time. And so I want to read a remembrance of how I got into this and really very much inspired. And that, it's written, so that's the punchline. Now you get to know it ahead of time. But I'm going to read that remembrance. My path to ACTR began much earlier in my high school French class. In June of 2003, after having completed my first whirlwind year of teaching at Friends School of Baltimore, I found myself at Bryn Mawr College participating in ACTR's first summer workshop to prepare teachers to work with RusNet modules in preparation for piloting the newly created Russian AP prototype exam, now called Newell. When asked to share with the group how I found my way to the teaching of Russian, I said without hesitation that it was my French teacher. She was an inspiration that I was jealous of my friends in our French class who also took Russian with her. They had a special bond that I wanted too, and they were all going to the Soviet Union with her in 1986. Not knowing a word of Russian or a single Cyrillic letter, I tagged along on that trip and came back full of impressions of the USSR, mostly based on visual observations. Gray streets with huge, ominous buildings, color coming from swaths of red billboards with slogans I didn't understand, clean and beautifully decorated subway stations with the metro efficiently transporting us all over the city of Moscow, and so packed that I feared that I wouldn't be able to push through the crowd and would lose the group. The meticulously orchestrated reception of the American guests at the Palace of Youth, hosting us with formal speeches, well-practiced student performances, and student delegates who spoke to us about student life in fluent English. Students who ran up to our in-tourist bus, when it stopped, to trade Soviet pins for chewing gum. A whole section of Dom Knigi with posters and slogans that I was again at a loss to figure out, until a friendly 20-something Soviet citizen took me under his wing, translating posters for me and helping me through the confusing set of lines to purchase some posters to decorate my future college dorm room. The more I saw and the more intrigued I was, and the more questions I had. What are classes like in a Russian school? What do people really think about their lives in the US? How is perestroika going? Why are some people approaching us eagerly while others are not meeting our eyes, and still others are keeping their distance, but looking at us with such curiosity? I had entered a curious new world, and I was hooked. I knew I needed language to really understand, and I took Russian my senior year in high school to begin a journey that I hoped would allow me to return to the Soviet Union in college to get deeper insight. So it was really my French teacher where this all began. In telling this story, little did I know that my inspiring high school French-Russian teacher, Jane Shuffelton, was sitting in the back of the room and would be one of the people leading that workshop I was there to attend. Jane Shuffelton planted the seeds of curiosity in me. And this is what I always remember is most important whenever I think about what I need to do in teaching. Thank you, Jane. So now I guess we are going to open it for any other members.
Give me a moment though. I'm
Okay.
I'm rarely speechless, but I almost am. But I just must say thank you, Lee. That was beautiful.
Thank you, Jane. So we're not expecting anyone to have any prepared speeches at all, and actually we don't have a lot of time. But if people want to say a few words, we also don't want to shut anyone down. If people feel like they want to say anything about how ACTR has impacted them before we conclude our conference at 5:30.
And we have Kira next. Kira.
Me, Kira? Okay, I'd like to show you all something. I have to lower my hand. Okay, can you see this? Okay, this ginormous document is something that took probably 2 days and 20 hours to come up with. And why did I do it? Because my grad school professors were so inspiring. I just fell in love with both of them. And I just can't speak because I love you so much. And my teaching is infused with you.
Just Kim.
And I just love you. That's all. Yeah. I just love them so much. Thank you, Dick and Dan, for everything. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. If anyone else would like just to take a minute and share anything, I think Ben. Mhm.
Thank you, everybody. I'd just like to take a moment to have us think back 50 years ago. This group of individuals thought maybe we could do something if we got together and as a group of teachers of Russian, and maybe that would somehow help the field. And just think for a moment about what was going on 1974, 1975, and how improbable all of this is. It's just absolutely extraordinary to think that this group of individuals, terrifically bright, driven, motivated, could come up with what they came up with and that it would flourish so. The story of ACTR is absolutely improbable. And when we compare what ACTR has accomplished over its first 50 years with what has been accomplished by American associations of teachers of other languages with much more resources, many more teachers, many more students, and governments that's from abroad that provide them with actual money. Compare that to what ACTR has accomplished, what ACTR has done for all of us and for thousands and thousands of our students. I am simply in awe and just so extraordinarily grateful to be a part of this community. Thank you. Thank you, Irwin. Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Dick. Thank you, Jane. Thank you to all the founders who are not able to be part of this celebration today. The legacy you have created is absolutely extraordinary. Thank you.
Always just one step behind Ben. A couple years behind Ben in grad school, always a couple of step or two behind. I just want to echo Ben's sentiments. I also want to echo Lee's sentiments because it was my middle school French teacher who inspired me to start studying Russian. And so deepest bow to Jane, to Betsy, to all of you here who inspire people in school. There was no Russian in the high school system I went to in Montgomery County. But there was wonderful French instruction, and it was during a lunch that my 7th grade French teacher sat with us at her desk. We had some questions for her, and she wrote out the Russian alphabet for a few of us. And I got really intrigued, and a few years later was able to take Russian with my best friend in the county, something sponsored by Montgomery County Schools. But it was, Montgomery County adult education. But it was thanks to my middle school French teacher that I began this path, and I am just so deeply grateful to all of you for starting us on paths the way you did, Jane, for Lee. I also want to express deepest thanks to Dan, to Dick, to Irwin, to all of you, deepest respect and thanks. And Jane, once again to you as well, for all you have done for all of us, for all you have done to inspire us as mentors, as models. May you live and prosper for many, many more years. Thank you very, very much for everything. We're all in your debt. One tiny last thought. Also, I'd like to express deepest respect to the memory of Cindy Martin, who was also my model mentor in many, many things. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Thank you so much for these beautiful words. And if we have anyone in the room who would like to say something, that's perfect time. We still have 5 more minutes left.
Perhaps what should also be said is a huge thank you to Olga, who has spearheaded, organized, and kept us going up through the very, very last minute. I know that my career is possible only thank you to ACTR, and it's lovely to be part of this and learn so much about what came before, but especially to thank Olga, who has been mentoring me, and how much we all appreciate you, I think really needs to be said as well.
Thank you, Irina. So we have 4 minutes, but I think people are just speechless. It's a very emotional moment. You know, we spent 2 days talking, exchanging all these important intellectual ideas, some of them very challenging, some of them very different, unique. We heard all these different opinions from our colleagues, but I think that we shouldn't forget that this conference was organized in order to mark the success of the organization, right? So this is kind of the culmination for this stage of our organization. But of course, we are hoping that the next stage, the next step, will be even more successful, more fruitful, and we'll have more and more members of the organization joining us in all our programming, becoming members at large on our organizing committee, because we love to work with our members, and we would love to involve as many people as possible. So, and I wanted just quickly to share with you that following this conference on May 8th, we are planning to have our teachers lounge, which will be the follow-up of this conference. We will be sending an announcement through emails, and we hope that we will use this moment to reflect on the both days of our conference. Also, because we didn't have time to discuss the keynote presentations, this will be perfect timing to share our thoughts on both beautiful keynotes talks. And we just wanted to tell you that the registration is already up on our website, and we've made a decision that we'll make this Teachers Lounge open to non-members as well. So keep an eye on correspondence from us. If you're not a ACTR member, you will be still invited to join us and to reflect on the conference on May 8th from 5:30 till 6:30.
It's meaningful to me that ACTR began with international partnerships, professional collaboration, and the scholarly sharing of the Soviet American contribution on the Russian language, known as SACRO, in October 1974. I didn't know it was known as SACRO, but now I do. This was sustained in many ways throughout the decades, as we heard from Dan in his opening. It is that much more meaningful that we are remembering our past and marking our 50th anniversary with a full circle return to international scholarly sharing. We've had 21 different countries represented in this virtual community over the last 2 days. Most touching for me were the moments in the very beginning when we heard greetings pop up from all over the world. There's been a significant diversity in representation. K-16 and more K-12 teachers than I can remember in the last 20 years, and many of them new ones. They are our future. Language organizations from around the world, as well as representatives from academia and DLI altogether. We've had diverse and inclusive formats for their presentations, titled papers, roundtable presentations, and Yevgeny Dengup's suggestion of the 5-minute share-outs, giving practical, useful, use tomorrow strategies that I think many found particularly helpful. We will have a Google slide, or a Google form rather, to collect the slideshows of presentations that presenters are willing to share, and they will be posted on the ACTR website for the next couple of weeks. So within the next couple of weeks. So if there was something that you didn't get to see and presenters are willing to share, we will have that there for you. And the videos will be processed over the summer, and they will eventually be linked as well. I hope that this is a spark of energy to light up more international and national collaboration across all kinds of divides in a time that's no less needy of collegial, national, and international scholarly exchange than were the 1970s, when our brave and visionary leaders began this venture. So with that, I thank you all for your participation and the joy that I think many of you shared with me this weekend. Thank you.